Night photography is more than just capturing what you see after dark. It's about embracing the mystery and beauty that the night brings. It offers numerous possibilities ranging from cityscapes to star-filled skies. But how do you balance the darkness, the lights, and motion? Let's unlock the art of night photography and walk through the gear and techniques that'll help us take advantage of that potential and capture images that best represent the magic of the night. Before we jump in, I want you to take a moment to think about what draws you to night photography. Is it the urban lights, the stars, or long exposures? I ask because understanding your own unique vision will guide your choice of subjects, influence your camera settings, and determine the techniques you use to create the images that reflect your artistic perspective. Embracing this personal vision will not only inspire your creativity, but also shape how you approach the essential skills that we'll explore together. As the sun sets, familiar landscapes transform with artificial lighting and reveal textures, colors, and moods that we often overlook during the day. Unlike daytime shooting, where natural light dominates, night photography challenges us to work with limited lighting conditions, which requires a different approach to both composition and technique. Understanding the nuances of shooting in low light conditions is crucial for success. So, embracing the challenge and learning how to use our equipment effectively allows us to create images that properly convey the beauty of the night. What we find is that every shot is an opportunity to tell a story and bring to light the hidden charm of the world after dark. As we move forward, we'll explore these nuances in detail and show how the right settings can help you capture the magic of night.
When it comes to night photography, having the right equipment is crucial for capturing images in low light conditions. First and foremost, a tripod is essential. Often, night photography involves long exposures, and a tripod provides the stability needed to prevent camera shake and ensure that we capture sharp images. There are workarounds like stabilizing your camera on a wall or a bench, but these alternatives lack the consistency, sharpness, and framing control a tripod offers. Look for a tripod that's both durable and lightweight with adjustable legs to help you achieve the right height and angle, allowing for greater flexibility in composition. Next, consider your choice of lens. Fast lenses with wide apertures like f1.8 or f2.8 are great because they allow more light to reach the sensor, essential for capturing sharp images without needing to raise the ISO too high, which can introduce noise. A prime lens like a 50mm f1.8 is a great starting point for beginners because it offers excellent sharpness and depth of field control. However, if you're looking to capture wide landscapes or expansive night skies, wide angle lenses such as the 24mm or 16mm will help you frame your subjects effectively while maintaining clarity across the image. A remote shutter release is another valuable tool, as it allows you to trigger the camera without physically touching it, minimizing camera shake during long exposures. If you don't have a remote, the self-timer feature on most cameras can achieve a similar effect. Many cameras also integrate with smartphone apps that offer remote control options, providing flexibility in activating your shots. Lastly, don't forget about your personal lighting needs. A headlamp or flashlight is invaluable for navigating in the dark, especially when setting up equipment or moving between locations. Opt for a headlamp with a red light mode to preserve your night vision without disrupting shooting conditions. Portable LED lights are also useful for creatively illuminating your scene, letting you add effects without overpowering the main exposure. With these essential tools in your toolkit, you'll be well prepared to tackle the challenges of night photography. Getting the right camera settings is crucial for capturing sharp, well exposed night photos. Three main settings, ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, work together to balance light and clarity in low light conditions. ISO controls how sensitive your camera sensor is to light, a critical setting for night photography. In low light scenes, raising the ISO brightens the image, allowing more light to reach the sensor. But finding the right balance is essential. High ISO settings add brightness but also introduce noise, reducing image quality. To capture clean night shots without excessive noise, start with a lower ISO like 400 or 800 and adjust as needed. If the scene is too dark, consider raising the ISO slightly, but be mindful of your camera's limitations. While noise reduction software has come a long way, aim to get it right in camera using post processing as a last resort. Aperture controls the amount of light entering through the lens and how much of the scene stays in focus. In low light, using a wide aperture like f1.8 or f2.8 allows more light, helping keep the ISO lower and reducing noise. This setting also creates a shallow depth of field, adding a nice blur to the background for portraits or close-ups. For cityscapes or landscapes at night, where you want more of the scene to remain sharp, try narrowing the aperture to f8 or f11. A smaller aperture limits incoming light, so you may need to slow down the shutter speed or raise the ISO to compensate. Achieving harmony between aperture, ISO, and shutter speed is key to capturing your intended look, as each setting affects the others. Shutter speed controls how long the camera's sensor is exposed to light, which is essential for getting well-lit images in dark environments. A longer shutter speed allows more light, which is helpful when using a lower ISO or narrow aperture. Keep in mind, long exposures mean any movement, whether from the camera or in the scene, can cause blur, so stability is crucial. For most scenes, shutter speed between 5 and 30 seconds works well, depending on the light available and ISO aperture settings. Slowing down the shutter speed lets you keep the ISO low, which avoids noise, especially with a smaller aperture. Finding the right balance of shutter speed, ISO, and aperture takes trial and error, so don't hesitate to experiment and adjust settings. Over time, you'll develop an instinct for the combinations that create sharp, vibrant night shots, capturing the essence of your scene.
Long exposure photography captures motion and detail in ways that shorter exposures can't. It's ideal for creating light trails where moving cars or city lights streak across your frame. Similar with star trails, long exposures allow you to capture the Earth's rotation, creating sweeping arcs across the night sky. These effects add layers of movement and storytelling, giving your images a surreal quality unique to night photography. As discussed, using a tripod is essential to avoid any camera shake that could blur the entire image. Begin with a shutter speed of about 10 to 15 seconds for light trails, adjusting as needed for desired effects. For busier scenes, shorter exposures create finer trails, while longer exposures add a fluid, dramatic look. To capture star trails, try exposures lasting several minutes or consider the stacking method using shorter exposures of 20 to 30 seconds each to reduce the noise and combine them later in post-processing. Balancing ISO and aperture settings to manage light and clarity is key, where small adjustments can have significant impacts on the final result. Experiment with these settings to discover the best effects for each scene, adding depth and motion to your shots. Artificial lighting gives night photographers the freedom to add creative touches to a scene, drawing elements out of the darkness. Techniques like backlighting add depth and separation to a subject, especially if you're photographing a person or object against a dark background. Positioning a light source behind your subject creates a silhouette effect, adding drama to the image. Light painting, another technique, lets you draw or illuminate specific areas of your scene using handheld lights like flashlights or LED wands. This technique is particularly effective in low light environments where a slow shutter speed captures light movement, creating unique patterns or emphasizing features in your shot. Experimenting with different light types and intensities will give you control over mood and focus. A small flashlight highlights details without overpowering the scene, while an LED panel or color-changing light can add ambient or colored effects, giving your images a more surreal feel. Place an LED behind your subject for an ethereal glow, or position colored lights to emphasize contrast against dark backgrounds. Keep in mind, these techniques have endless creative potential and can be as simple or complex as you make them. As you gain confidence, you'll find new ways to use light to shape and transform your images. Astrophotography is a rewarding aspect of night photography, allowing you to capture the brilliance of stars, planets, and even the Milky Way. But achieving clear, detailed shots of the night sky requires patience, practice, and a few specialized techniques. These initial tips will help you get started, but know that astrophotography has many layers, each offering its own unique challenges and rewards. Start by seeking a location far from city lights, as light pollution can wash out faint stars and limit your ability to capture fine details. Dark sky locations, which can be found using tools like Light Pollution Map, are ideal for astrophotography. A wide-angle lens with a large aperture, such as f2.8, gathers more light from the stars, which is especially useful for photographing faint celestial objects. To avoid star trails and capture pinpoint stars, use a shorter exposure time, generally calculated using the 500 rule. Divide 500 by your focal length to find the maximum shutter speed that avoids visible trailing. For example, with a 24mm lens, an exposure time of around 20 seconds will help capture sharp stars. Pair this with a low ISO to avoid noise, adjusting settings gradually as you find the balance that best suits your scene. Remember, astrophotography is a technique that deepens as you learn more. Each attempt will build your experience and help you refine your approach to capturing the beauty of the cosmos.
Post-processing is an essential step in night photography as it allows you to bring out the details and colors that may not be fully captured straight out of camera. Low light images often require adjustments to exposure, contrast, and color balance to reveal the depth and atmosphere of the scene as you envisioned it. This process is not only about correcting, but also enhancing the natural beauty of your images, creating a final result that captures the night's essence. One of the first steps in post-processing is adjusting exposure and brightness. Night photos can appear too dark or underexposed, especially when using lower ISO settings to avoid noise. Carefully increasing exposure and brightness can help bring out the details without sacrificing the nighttime atmosphere. However, be cautious not to overdo it. Keeping some shadows intact preserves the mood and mystery that make night photography compelling. Noise reduction is another critical aspect of night photography editing. Even with low ISO, some noise will likely appear, particularly in the shadowed areas. Using noise reduction tools in software like Lightroom or Photoshop allows you to selectively reduce this grain without losing too much detail. Start with subtle adjustments, as too much noise reduction can soften important textures and make the image look unnatural. Additionally, you may want to experiment with sharpening techniques to restore detail in areas that need definition. Adjusting color balance is vital in night photography, as artificial lighting can often cast unnatural hues across your scene. Fine-tuning the white balance will help you neutralize these unwanted colors and bring out the true tones in the image. You may also want to add subtle color grading to emphasize certain moods, cooler tones for a serene moonlit scene, or warmer tones for urban nightscapes with artificial lighting. Experiment with small shifts to find the color palette that best reflects the mood you wish to convey. Finally, consider enhancing highlights and shadows to add depth to your image. Bringing up the highlights can make artificial lights pop, while deepening the shadows preserves the night's natural mystery. This balancing act of highlights and shadows will give your photo a sense of dimension and atmosphere. Post-processing for night photography may seem intricate at first, but with each edit, you'll refine your skills and gain a better understanding of how to bring out the beauty hidden within your images. As we wrap up, let's recap the key techniques that'll help you succeed in night photography. First, remember the importance of stability. A good tripod and a remote shutter release will ensure sharp images, even with long exposures. Then, make the most of your camera settings. Adjusting ISO, aperture, and shutter speed will allow you to find the right balance between light and clarity in low light conditions. We also explore creative techniques like long exposures, light painting, and astrophotography, each offering unique ways to capture the night's beauty. And finally, post-processing lets you enhance and refine your images, transforming them into powerful representations of your artistic vision. Night photography is a skill that develops with practice. The techniques we discuss will give you a strong foundation, but the real growth comes with experimenting with different settings, compositions, and locations. Don't be afraid to push your creativity and embrace trial and error. It's through these experiences that you'll begin to develop a style and technique that's uniquely yours. Each outing, whether successful or challenging, adds to your expertise. As a final call to action, I encourage you to take what you've learned and get out there and shoot at night. Whether it's an urban scene, a quiet landscape, or a star filled sky, remember that every shot is an opportunity to tell a story only you can see. With patience and practice, you'll soon find yourself capturing the magic and mystery of the night in ways that truly reflect your artistic vision. So grab your camera, venture out into the night, and start creating your own visual stories. The night sky awaits. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our future tips on photography techniques. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.